The night we tried to steal Halloween. I swear, every stupid thing we did started as a joke. CJ and I grew up in the kind of countryside that went quiet after dark. No streetlights, no traffic, just crickets and fog-covered fields. When you're 16 and bored out of your mind, trouble starts to look like entertainment. So, a week before Halloween, we decided to steal some pumpkins. Not little ones either, big ones. The ones families take pictures with, the kind kids can barely lift. It wasn't even about selling them or making money. It was just about saying we did it. The old man who owned the patch was a legend around our town, Mr. Holloway. People said he used to be in the military or something. All we knew was that he never smiled, never slept, and somehow always caught anyone who stepped foot on his land. CJ thought he was bluffing. I wasn't so sure. Still, at 1 a.m. that Friday night, I parked my beat-up pickup on the side of a dirt road just outside Holloway's farm. The air smelled like cold soil and gasoline. A thin layer of fog clung to the ground like smoke. We killed the headlights. The world went pitch black. "Come on," CJ whispered, already climbing out. I hesitated, gripping the steering wheel for a second longer than I should have. We were just two idiots creeping through a field, but every step felt loud enough to wake the dead. The corn around the property had already been harvested, leaving the field bare and flat. No cover. Just open space between us and the old man's house. Somewhere in the distance, an owl screamed. "See?" CJ whispered. "He's probably asleep. We're fine." I didn't answer. I just kept my eyes on that house, one window on the top floor, curtains drawn tight, no light. When we finally reached the edge of the pumpkin patch, CJ grinned. There they were, hundreds of round orange bodies glowing faintly under the moonlight. We'd made it. For a second, I almost laughed. All that fear, all that sneaking, and the old man was probably snoring inside. "Grab 2 of the big ones," I whispered. "Then we're done." CJ nodded, but instead of reaching for a pumpkin, he pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" I hissed. "Flashlight, dude. I can't see which ones are good. Turn it off." He waved me off. "Relax. We're fine." That tiny click as his flashlight turned on felt like a gunshot. The beam sliced through the field, bright and sharp. The house was about 50 yards away. And in that moment I saw it. A flicker. One window curtain moved. "CJ," I whispered, backing away. "Turn it off." He laughed. "You're paranoid." The old man. Bang! The first shot tore through the quiet like thunder. We both hit the dirt. My ears rang. Somewhere behind us, another shot exploded. The dirt beside my hand jumped, scattering pumpkin seeds into the air. "Run!" I screamed. We bolted. CJ's flashlight was still on, jerking wildly in his hand, turning him into a moving target. Bang! The beam dropped. His phone hit the ground, the lights spinning across broken vines. "Go! Go!" I grabbed him by the jacket and pulled. Another shot hit something close. A pumpkin exploded beside us, showering us with pulp. The smell of raw pumpkin and gunpowder filled the air. We ran blindly, feet pounding the cold soil, breath coming out in gasps that sounded too loud. The old man wasn't yelling, wasn't warning, just shooting. When my boot hit empty air, it was too late. We fell, both of us, down into a shallow ditch, hitting the mud hard. "Turn it off," I whispered. "Turn what off?" CJ hissed back. "Your damn phone." He scrambled, found it, killed the light. The darkness swallowed us whole. We crouched low, shoulder to shoulder, listening. The field was quiet again, except for the distant sound of boots crunching over dry corn husks. Slow. Heavy. Getting closer. CJ's breath came out in sharp bursts. I could feel him shaking beside me. "He's gonna find us," he mouthed. I didn't answer. My hand gripped the muddy ground until my nails hurt. The footsteps stopped. Then turned. I dared a peek over the edge of the ditch. A figure stood in the middle of the field, tall, thin, holding a hunting rifle. The moon caught his face for just a second, pale, hollow, and motionless. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't chasing. He was just standing there, scanning the dark. Waiting. I pressed my back against the dirt, praying he hadn't seen me. Then came another sound. A voice. Soft, almost conversational. "I see you boys." CJ's hand clamped around my arm. "Run!" I mouthed. We scrambled up the side of the ditch and sprinted toward the road. The first shot whistled past us, close enough that I felt the heat of it cut the air beside my ear. The next one shattered a pumpkin to my right, pieces slapping my jacket as we ran. We didn't stop. Didn't look back. The truck was a ghost shape in the moonlight, 30 feet ahead, 2010. CJ threw himself into the passenger seat as I fumbled with the keys. My hands were slick with mud. The engine coughed once, twice. Bang! A bullet sparked off the tailgate. The engine roared to life. I floored it, spinning the wheels, mud flying behind us. As we tore down the road, I looked once, just once, into the rearview mirror. The old man stood in the middle of his empty field, rifle hanging loose in one hand, staring at us until we vanished into the dark. When we finally stopped, CJ was laughing through his tears. "That was insane," he said. "We almost died over pumpkins." I didn't laugh. I couldn't. Because as the adrenaline drained out, one thought hit me like a brick. He wasn't trying to hit us. Not really. He was hurting us, letting us go, just to make sure we never came back. And trust me, we never did. The scarecrow in the field. You'd think that after nearly being shot over pumpkins, CJ and I would have learned our lesson. But fear fades faster than guilt. And guilt fades even faster when you're 16 and dumb enough to think the universe owes you another thrill. 2 nights later, CJ texted me just before midnight. "You won't believe what I found at Holloway's field. Come over." I stared at the message for a long minute before replying. "Dude, we're not going back there. Just come see. I swear you'll want to." 10 minutes later, I was in my truck, headlights off, the same road swallowing me again. The fog was thicker this time. It rolled low across the ground, turning fence posts into ghostly silhouettes. Every bump in the dirt road rattled the leftover fear in my chest. When I reached the pull-off, CJ was already there, flashlight beam cutting through the mist. "Bro, check this out," he said, waving me closer. His voice was too loud for a place like this. Too alive. "What the hell are we doing here again?" I hissed. He ignored me and pointed toward the far end of the pumpkin patch. "Look." At first I didn't see it. Just the black field and the faint orange dots of unharvested pumpkins. Then the fog shifted, and I saw it, tall, human-shaped, standing in the middle of the patch. A scarecrow. But not like any I'd seen before. Its clothes weren't old or faded. They looked new. A checkered flannel shirt, dark jeans, and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed its face. Its arms were stretched wide, tied to a wooden crossbeam, but its posture looked too real, too balanced. "What's so special about a scarecrow?" I whispered. CJ leaned closer. "It wasn't there before. Remember? When we were here the other night, there was nothing in the field." I thought back. He was right. The old man hadn't used scarecrows at all. A chill slid down my spine. CJ grinned. "Let's go look." "No way," I said. "You're insane." But he was already walking, light bobbing ahead of him through the fog. I cursed under my breath and followed. The closer we got, the quieter everything felt. Even the crickets stopped. The night air was cold and sharp enough to sting. When we reached the scarecrow, I felt my chest tighten. Up close, the thing looked too human. The shirt was buttoned perfectly. The hands, if they were fake, were molded with eerie precision, dirt under the fingernails. The jeans were tucked neatly into boots. Real boots. And the smell. It wasn't hay. It was metallic. Almost like rust. "Dude, I think he used a mannequin," CJ said, circling it. That's creepy as hell. I took a step closer and noticed something odd about its chest. The shirt was dark, but darker around the middle, uneven stains that had dried into the fabric. My flashlight trembled in my hand. CJ. What? Look at the shirt. He squinted. Oh, damn. That's blood, isn't it? I swallowed. Back up. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Maybe the old man wanted to scare people like us. You know, a warning. Then why does it smell like that? He hesitated. For once, CJ didn't have a comeback. That was when we heard it. A noise from the direction of the house. Footsteps. Not hurried, slow, steady, deliberate. We both turned toward the sound. In the distance, near the porch light that barely glowed through the fog, we saw a figure. Tall. Limping slightly. And holding something long in his hand. CJ killed his flashlight. Get down, I whispered, pulling him toward a cluster of half-rotten pumpkins. We crouched low, barely breathing. The footsteps came closer, crunch, 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 stopping just a few feet away from the Scarecrow. Through the mist, we could see the silhouette of the old man. His head turned slowly toward it, then toward us. My lungs burned from holding my breath. He stood there for what felt like forever, then reached out and touched the Scarecrow's shoulder. Evening, boys, he said quietly. The voice didn't sound angry. It sounded almost sad. Then he did something I'll never forget. He lifted the Scarecrow's hat and whispered something I couldn't make out. After a pause, he set the hat back down and turned to walk away. We didn't move until he disappeared into the fog. CJ was the first to whisper. What the hell was that? I didn't answer. My legs were shaking so bad I could barely stand. When we finally started backing away, my boot snagged on something. I looked down and saw the end of a rope, the same kind you'd used to tie something to a post. Only this one wasn't tied tight. It was frayed, broken. Like something had pulled itself free. CJ, I whispered. Let's go. But CJ wasn't listening. He was staring at the Scarecrow again. Its head moved, he said softly. What? I swear it did. It was facing the house before. Now it's facing us. My stomach dropped. I grabbed him by the sleeve and yanked him toward the truck. We ran. Again. Only this time, no gunshots followed us, just the whisper of wind through the corn stalks and the creak of something wooden turning in the dark. When we reached the road, I looked back one last time. The Scarecrow was still there. But its head was tilted. Just enough to make me certain it was watching us leave. Absolutely. Here's Chapter 3 of your cinematic true horror series continuation. We'll close the story with a haunting, movie-like ending, around 900 words, keeping the tone dark, realistic, and perfect for a YouTube narrative voiceover. The Harvest Moon. The next morning, CJ called me 6 times before I finally picked up. He sounded jittery, out of breath, almost like he hadn't slept. Dude, he said. You have to come over. It's about last night. No, I muttered. I'm done with that place. Just come. You need to see this. Against every shred of better judgment I had left, I drove over. CJ lived in an old farmhouse his parents had half abandoned. They were out of town most weekends. When I pulled up, the sky was a dull gray, the kind of morning that feels like it's holding its breath. The air was colder than it should have been for late October. CJ opened the door before I even knocked. His eyes were bloodshot, and there was dirt under his fingernails. Look, he said, holding out his phone. It was a video, shaky, low light. He must have filmed it last night after I dropped him off. The screen showed the Scarecrow. Except, it wasn't standing in the same place. It was closer to the fence line now. And its arms weren't outstretched anymore. They were hanging loosely at its sides. You went back? I asked. CJ nodded. At like 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep, man. I kept thinking about how it looked at us. So I drove back. When I got there, it was standing like this. I stared at the video, heart thudding. "You're screwing with me." "I'm not," he said. "And that's not all. Look at the timestamp." The video was taken at 4:03 a.m. In the background, faint but clear, was a sound. Something dragging. A long, slow scrape against dirt. I handed the phone back. "You need to delete that and forget about it." CJ laughed shakily. "Forget it? That thing moved, dude. It moved." He wasn't listening. And deep down, I already knew what was coming next. He wanted to go back, in daylight this time. He said if we went now, it would prove it was just some creepy farm prop. By noon, we were parked in the same spot on the dirt road again. The field looked harmless in the sun. No fog. No moonlight. Just rows of orange pumpkins scattered over flat brown soil. The old man's house stood quiet at the far end, windows closed, curtains drawn. The scarecrow was gone. We both froze. "What the hell?" CJ whispered. We walked the perimeter of the patch. Nothing. Just trampled dirt and an empty post standing like a gravestone in the middle. Then I saw it, a trail. Faint drag marks in the soil leading from the post toward the cornfield on the far side of the property. CJ saw them too. "He moved it," he said. "The old man must have." "Then where is he?" I cut in. Because the house was silent. The front door was half open, swinging slightly in the wind. I told CJ we should leave. He didn't answer. He was staring down the drag marks, his jaw tightening. "Let's just follow them a bit," he said. "If we see him, we'll go." I didn't agree, but I followed anyway. The trail led between tall dead corn stalks that rustled like paper when we brushed past them. Every few steps, the breeze would die, and the silence pressed in heavier. Then we found something. A shoe. A single brown work boot lying half buried in the dirt. It wasn't CJ's. It wasn't mine. It looked old, cracked leather, dry mud crusted along the sides. CJ picked it up and turned it over. There was something inside, a slip of torn paper folded twice. He unfolded it, squinting. Scrawled in shaky handwriting were 3 words. "Not dead yet." I didn't wait. I turned around, heading back toward the truck. "Hey!" CJ called. "Where are you going?" "Home!" I shouted. "You can play ghost hunter by yourself if you want." I was halfway across the field when I heard him scream. It wasn't a yell, not the kind you make when you're startled. It was raw, terrified, ripped straight out of his chest. I ran back, heart in my throat. CJ was standing at the edge of a wide pit I hadn't noticed before. The earth there looked recently disturbed, like someone had been digging. At the bottom of the pit was the scarecrow. But it wasn't standing anymore. It was lying on its back, arms spread, hat missing. Its face was pale and human. Mr. Holloway. The flannel shirt, the jeans, the boots, everything the scarecrow had worn. His skin was ashen, his eyes half open, mouth frozen mid-breath. He was dead. Or at least he looked dead. Until he moved. His hand twitched, slow and stiff, like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. The fingers clenched, released, then clenched again. CJ stumbled backward, tripping into the dirt. I grabbed him by the jacket and yanked him away as the man's arm lifted fully, pointing toward us. That's when I saw what we'd missed before. There were rope burns on his wrists. And deep gashes along his chest, the kind that looked like they'd been made days ago, not hours. He'd been strung up there, bleeding, for who knows how long. Maybe he'd already died up there. Maybe something else was standing in his place last night. We didn't wait to find out. We ran like our bodies were made of lightning, across the field, through the dust, not stopping until we were in the truck, slamming the doors shut. As I turned the key, CJ gasped. "Look!" I glanced out the windshield. The field was empty again. No scarecrow. No Holloway. Just a single dark figure standing near the post, tall, motionless, head tilted toward us. It wasn't human anymore. We sped off, tires spitting gravel, hearts pounding against our ribs. By the time we reached the main road, The fog had started to roll back in, thick, swallowing the world behind us. We never spoke about that day again. CJ stopped answering my texts. His house went dark. 2 weeks later, I heard his parents filed a missing person report. They said he'd gone driving one night and never came back. Sometimes, late at night, I still get a notification from a private number. No message, just a photo. A blurry image of a field under a harvest moon. And in the middle of it, a scarecrow. Wearing CJ's jacket.